welcome. Okay, so thank you and welcome. Thank you for your time. Welcome to the webinar. If I keep glancing to one side, it's because I've moved my Teams with pictures on it to one side. Otherwise, I can't see my other screen. And if you're here to find out a little bit more about the Applied Directorship Program, you're in the right place. If that's not why you're here, then please feel free to drop off and
stay anyway.
email
We
us, or
love
just
you.
stay for the hell
We
of it.
love
You
you.
might learn something.
Yes. And we can be very amusing. I mean, already we've, given you a bit of a sort of Teams lesson. So that's, one thing.
So with me today, I have Warwick van Breda, who's our CEO. He's been with us a while now, several years now, and has got lots of experience, particularly in the listed space and in the M&A space. For those of you who haven't met me before, Tim Holmes, I'm the main facilitator for the program, and I'm one of the senior partners at Sirdar, and I've been with the company since 2013, so sure, long time. And yes, as we said, please put your questions in the chat box, and either Warwick or Aziza will stop me if we need to answer anything in context. So I wanted to just go through the program, explain who it's for, how we built it, and why we've built it in the way we have, and then ask any questions that you might have about your directorship journey. Is this relevant for you in your particular context, etc. So as far as possible, we wanted to make it a conversation, as I said. So for those of you who haven't heard of the words or name that we're using, Sirdar, we've taken the context of the Sirdar being the name for the lead Sherpa on a mountain expedition. So quite a lot of our slides will show pictures of mountains and climbing. And the idea is that the specific difference between a Sirdar and anyone else on the mountain is they are leading the expedition and they go with you on the journey. So we try to do the same thing in the governance space. We'll help train you, make sure you've got the right equipment, the right tools, the right experience as early in the journey as possible, and then go with you on that journey to climbing your summit, building the business that you want to build, but specifically in the boardroom and anything related to the boardroom. And this course is for anyone who either is a director or wants to be a director. That's its primary focus. In fact, its only real focus. So we want to make it as practical as possible. We give you opportunity to get exposure to the theory. Some of it will be covered in the facilitated modules. Others parts of it will be covered in the readings and the videos, etc., that you'll need to watch online. But the real point is to close off any gaps that you might have in your understanding of what it means to be a great director and an effective director, and practically implement the stuff you may have learned at an IOD course or a university course to convert it from theory to practical application in the boardroom, which is why we spend so much time focusing on simulated board meetings during the program, and I'll touch on that in a moment. So even for experienced directors, we've had people on the course who've done 10, 20 years on boards, and there's a point where you're not necessarily learning new things. You're not necessarily keeping up with what's changing in the world of governance just by sitting on a board, because you're only going to learn from the other people around the table. So what we want to try and do is take you through a journey of refreshing things that you might have known before, filling any gaps, and also the opportunity to unlearn things, unlearn practices which are no longer relevant, unlearn practices which are no longer useful, and learn the best practice going forward so that you can then apply that in the board positions you're in. And we've had plenty of people who said, wow, I wish I'd learned this 10 years ago. It would have stopped X, Y, Z happening. It would have stopped that massive failure problem we had in that particular company I was on the board of. So very much there's enough in this program for experienced directors, next generation directors, moving through the family, going to second, third generation, the opportunity to go and be serving on a board as a director on one of the family business units. It's really, really important that you can add value and you can go into that conversation with demonstrating some skill. So let's take you through 8 board meetings. Let's take you through the process of learning about all the different elements of governance so you can walk into the boardroom when you get that opportunity and really add value quickly. It's not a case of sitting on the board and just listening for the first year. You can contribute as early as possible. Aspiring directors, same thing. If you want to become a non-exec director, it's really, really key that you have the confidence and the comfort and understanding of what governance is about before you go into that first interview. And even if you haven't got experience in a board in the real world, and we'd highly recommend you try and get something on a committee, on a body corporate, or something where you can say you've served in that kind of committee environment, board environment. The idea of the program is that you will have had 8 board meetings with a group of strangers, running a meeting and an opportunity to take the role of chair, so that you've got some practical examples in your mind that you can demonstrate that skill when you're talking to someone in an interview context. It's enough to get you in the door at least, and then you can obviously demonstrate to them with your specific experience, specific skills, etc., how you can add value to that organization. And last but not least, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and founders, governance is becoming much more stringent. There's far more legal ramifications if you don't do it. Banks are now looking for some indication that governance has been implemented, that you're running regular meetings, that you've got meeting minutes. They want to see a properly documented resolution, etc., when you're taking out bank loans. Incoming investors are looking to see governance is in place, that you're investor ready. So it's really key if you want to grow the business to get the structure sorted out, ideally before you get investor placements coming into your board, so that you are at the same level as those incoming people, not taking instruction from them in the boardroom, and they may or may not know any more than you do. But most importantly, you've got the opportunity to set the tone, to say, this is the way we do things around here. This is what our board charter says. We've laid out the terms of what it means to be a director in this company before you bring someone in. And there's far less chance of someone trying to take over your business or railroading you or driving the conversation if you've set it up properly right at the beginning and set up the expectations right at the beginning. And we'll talk a lot about that during the course. Any specific context where someone says, oh, well, I'm not sure. Any questions at this point about where you are at and whether this course is actually going to be relevant for you? I can't see anything in chat.
Right. I'm raising my hand quickly. One of the things that I want to just comment on is 2 things. Is that we all suffer from imposter syndrome. We're all worried that we're in the room and that we don't deserve to be there. And one of the things that helps you to work through that is experience. And one of the things that we guarantee you is experience. And we guarantee you during the time that you'll have an opportunity to actually be in the room. And number 2, once you graduate, you will form part of our Sirdar Directors Network. And our SDN is very powerful. And what we do is we use it to try to push all of our graduates into non-executive director roles. As everybody knows, we can't guarantee it, but we certainly think that we know what it takes to be a good director. And once you've gone through, we do everything humanly possible to put you onto a board. And that's just because we believe that boards are a lever for growth. So better boards grow better businesses. And so that's our starting off point. And then just the other thing before I see Puppy, you've got your hand up. I'll unmute in a minute. I just wanted to say, the other thing that is important is that when there's 2 big inflection points for wanting a board. One is when you've got a transaction coming. So somebody wants to either put money into your business, you want to get a new shareholder, so at a corporate event, you then look back and you look at all of the governance stuff, but it's too late. The best time to start is right away. Because you can get railroaded by incoming people, and they've got a very, very superficial knowledge of what it means to be on a board. And very often private equity guys, we all know them and love them. They went to a business school and they are now working in a private equity business, and they think they know everything about everything. And they come in and they start talking at you in acronyms. You're asking to be EBITDA, what the total cost of acquisition of a client is, and what is the metric, and what is the number. And this morning I saw a lovely presentation that said that in any sales cycle there can be up to 300 different numbers. Which number are you looking for? But only one number, is spoken about around a table. So these are things, and the most important and the most substantial part of directorship is not being afraid, is being able to ask good questions all of the time. And as everybody knows, one of the things that you walk away from a meeting feeling like you had a good meeting is that if you get to listen, or you get to talk more than you listen. So you get to give your input. And you can only do that when you've gone through the material, read the board material, and that stuff. Some of the stuff that we'll teach you is go through. Don't arrive at a meeting and go, cool, what's in the agenda today? Because then you're guaranteed to carry on feeling like you shouldn't be sitting at that table. Right, Poppy's got a question. Can you unmute? Can you unmute? Ah, there you go.
Thank you
Go
very
for
much.
it.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
we
we
can hear
can.
you.
Yes, we can.
Thank you for welcoming us, and thank you for really good introduction and background. My name is Papim Patlele. I've got a question now. I was not sure even if I should wait and ask it later, but maybe to blend in as you discuss, because
Great, go for it.
it's very
Yeah.
interesting question from my side.
Yeah.
From your role of developing young people for directorships and working with them to show them that to show them the way to be successful in the corporate work.
Mm-hmm.
If one considers the realities that South Africa is facing, we've got challenges like infrastructure decay. We've got political interference, we've got institutional resistance, and a lot of other challenges. So myself, I've been there, I came through private companies before, but at the end, I became a CEO of three different property companies, the parastatals within South Africa. In fact, I was the first black for all of them at that time. And then even
Wonderful.
leading up to becoming a first black president of SAPOA, South African Property Owners Association. I found that traditional boardroom framework often collapses under real world socio-political pressure.
Yes.
Based on that, I've got two questions. My question is how is Sirdar evolving its director development models to equip leaders, not just for standard corporate compliance, but for the raw institutional resilience needed to safeguard commercial infrastructure and private and public infrastructure assets in a highly volatile market, That's the first question. My second question is really to Sirdar. How open is Sirdar in partnering with someone seasoned like myself, who has seen it and been specific state and private sector reigns to co-create a localized, battle-tested governance blueprint for the next generation of directors, that could be used, That's my question.
Okay, so it's question two. Question one is a really good one, and we found the answer to question one by accident. In fact, we didn't. COVID helped us. So what we're able to do is we're able to transplant best practice from all throughout the governance ecosystem by having a number of different jurisdictions on any one cohort. So as opposed to any individualized specific boardroom training that you will find inside of your jurisdiction, what we can do is cross-jurisdictionally, we can apply real-world problems. And so it's very, very practical. It's called the Applied Directorship Program because what we are hoping is that in those cohorts, because of the cross-section of different executives, different people in different stages, there's always learning opportunities. So it's always important to know not only what is on the whiteboard or on the presentation, it's also who's in the room and what the quality of the questions being asked. So that's good. I would agree in terms of that that socio-political pressures, etc. And it's something that you find in every single jurisdiction. So it's not unique just to South Africa. You have the identical thing in West, East, North Africa. You have it also in Europe, but in a far more sometimes subtle and insidious way. So Tim, you might want to add something to that. I'm going to give you a moment right after this because I'm going to answer the second question to say, let's take that offline. I'm happy to have a conversation. It's a big passion of mine, public-private partnerships. And I mean, I would honestly, I would do it for free to try to create and specifically in the public sector, is a blueprint in the public sector where, at the foundation stone of this work is ethics, and you can't teach ethics in a year. So the ethical behavior is a practice, and it's structural. And so that's a really interesting conversation that I'm happy to take offline and have a chat to you. So I think we should do that. So after this, I'll get hold of your details and let's definitely chat, because we believe that the boardrooms. So this is the interesting thing about business. There's a longitudinal study that says that GDP growth equals happiness index. The higher your GDP growth is, the better your country does, right? And there's a lot of naysayers just say this is nonsense, but I promise you that's what the stats say. So I'm not being subjective; it's an objective thing. In order to grow GDPs, what you need entrepreneurs, and it's a well-known fact that an entrepreneur that starts a billion rand business can contribute at 1 or 2% to GDP, right? In Sirdar, we've walked that journey with 6 or 7 entrepreneurs. Right, so I think Sirdar is already, and I'll say this, with my tongue in my cheek a little bit, but that's 6% GDP growth in this organization. So we passionately believe in upliftment, social upliftment, all these kind of things follow business success. So that's why we're so buoyant on making successful businesses. We believe that our value and the way that we can do that and the lever we can pull is the boardroom. So great boards, thriving businesses, thriving countries. And that's all countries. That's not just South Africa. We believe that across the whole continent. Cool. Tim, you want to add anything on the specifically, like, how do we equip people for the sort of socio-political things that happen in their jurisdiction when they're operating?
Yeah, so the main thing is we're not jurisdiction specific. We're using now international governance frameworks, for example, the ISO 37000 standard. And I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago for 2.5 days, and the outcome was that the problem is culture in the boardroom. So a lot of the stuff we're doing and why we want you to be working in groups and why we're sitting with the groups and help and mentor you as you go is to help you understand how that culture needs to look and feel like. So it should be a safe space. We should be treating each other as equals. We shouldn't be judging each other. We should be making and doing everything we possibly can to improve the organization, improve each other, not just criticizing, ticking the box, all of that kind of critical perspective stuff. This is not you walk in the room and you criticize the CEO. You walk in the room and you help and support the CEO to do better. Now that might include some constructive criticism, but it also needs to be including some mentoring, some help and support, some education, some everything else as well. It should feel like a safe space. It should feel like a productive space. It should be a room that we want to arrive in and feel like we're going to add value in. That's what a boardroom's supposed to be about. And that's what we're trying to deliver at the end. We may not get it right every time because it's obviously down to the individuals, but that's when it really makes a difference. We've got plenty of governance frameworks. We've got plenty of governance rules. We've got strict enough companies acts all around the world, but we're not implementing it because the culture's not right, the values are not there, the ethics are not there to focus on that team doing the right thing. So that was when I closed out the conference, that was really the theme. Do the right thing. There's plenty of things that can tell you what the right thing looks like. We've just got to do it. So we do the program over 11 months so you get a chance to do it. And you build a new habit, you build a new understanding of how that can add value so that when you go into the world, you fundamentally change the way you think. You fundamentally change the way you act. That's the idea. Because only you as an individual can do that and can make that change and then hold other people accountable in the room when you're on a board. Just be that lone voice.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tim.
So what we're trying to do is move directors to the point where they're focusing on how do you create that meaningful economic impact in the role, but also not afraid to have the tough conversations. So that's why you need to be confident that you know what the rules are, how they should best be implemented, what's relevant for this particular organization. So governance is not a cookie cutter thing. It needs to be right sized for the organization, it needs to be contextually relevant for the organization. and then say, look, this is we can't do this. This is not what we should be doing. We need to be doing X, Y, Z. Let's do the right thing. But that comes from confidence, knowledge, experience, etc. So that's what we're trying to build confidence, basically, so you can have those tough conversations and meaningfully understand, well, if we're going down this route, I have to get out of this situation. I have to resign. Otherwise, I'm going to be complicit. It's going to hurt my reputation, and maybe legal consequences. In other words, understand what the downside looks like, so you can be much stronger in holding the upside. So that's what we're trying to do as individual directors. And as a board, we want to get you used to the rhythm. So you have a monthly board meeting for 8 board meetings. It's at the same day of the week. It's in the calendar, just like it would be if you were on a real board. Here's your board calendar. This is what we're going to be talking about at this board meeting. This is the topic of this board meeting, this topic of this board meeting. Again, as far as close as we can make it to what should be happening in the real world.
And the other thing, Tim, I think it's a good point, is that showing up prepared, doing the reading, engaging with your fellow cohort on this course gives you all of those tools that you would normally need as a director. And if you're a current director, it also shows you where the loopholes or the gaps are in your own COSEC process and your own board process. And you can nudge the COSEC, or you can nudge the chairman and say, hey, chair, I reckon we need to, this can't just be your PA that's trying to organize this whole thing. And if it is, cool, send her along on the ADP, because a lot of the stuff, and I love using all sorts of sports analogies, but a lot of nobody ever just arrives to race, right? It's all the prep and the training and the eating and the waking up early and the discipline. That's your ticket to get to the start line. And you've got to look at a boardroom as the start line, right? And to get to the start line, it's sometimes simple things like, yesterday I logged into a board meeting online, and one of our members was, sitting in person, and she was like, oh, but now what do I do? And that was just because the board secretary hadn't said explicitly on the agenda, this is an online meeting, right? Small things like that, but those are things that you kind of pick up as you go along in this course, and you'll be like, okay, cool. There's a template, there's a framework. What we also do is that we dial into your board meetings, and we help you to kind of structure them and set them up so that what a good board meeting looks like.
Yep. But ultimately, we want you to get to the point where you understand the importance of strategy, and that the board leads strategy. You understand what leadership means in the board context, because you're basically demonstrating what is good practice, good leadership to the rest of the organization. So it must include values. And then how do you implement that in the rest of the organization? Well, you implement it through governance, which is policies, processes, etc., and holding the company accountable to a performance standard higher than it's ever had before. So typically as founders, we don't hold ourselves accountable. So if you bring in non-exec directors, it makes that transition easier. But we want to make sure the board as a whole is holding each other accountable to a better performance standard, not holding each other accountable because you're to blame, it's your fault, you did it wrong. That's when boards really fall apart, and they fall apart quickly. So we must demonstrate leadership, demonstrate that we are driving and owning the strategy, and we must really be competent in how we implement that through policies, processes, procedures, KPIs, all of the rest of the stuff, because then we'll shift the needle. Then it'll make a big difference to the organization, and you'll see it quite quickly. So we take through the first module, we'll take you through this concept of the 3 hats, but understanding the separation between shareholders, the board, and management, which is not commonly understood, and the difference between the relationships between them and with them and the company. So there's a hard line between shareholders and the board. Once shareholders have appointed the directors, they have no right to influence the strategy. They can give their perspective, but they can't tell the board what to do. And that's typically where state-owned enterprises go wrong. The shareholder, the government, is telling the board what to do, or at least telling the chairman or the CEO what to do. So we break that line. We lose that disconnect. The board is appointed to do the best job possible in the best interest of the company. but shareholders mustn't meddle with that. They can remove directors, they can appoint directors, but they can't meddle in between. And just like the same with board and management, board mustn't get involved in the operations. They must give management sufficient direction, sufficient guardrails that they can autonomously get on with doing the job, but you can't get sucked into the operational discussion. The board needs to be holding that space of thinking about the strategy and whether it needs to be adapted or changed on that. It must be foresight looking forward, oversight looking down at the whole organization and trying to understand whether the moving parts are effective, and looking with hindsight at what have we done before. Have we, when we look, if we're in a ship, we look behind us, is the wake going all over the place, or is it firm and steady? And what are we taking from the data from the past that influences our discussion and decisions about the way forward? That's what we should be doing as a board. But too often we get drawn into the operational conversation because there's too many executives in the room, or we get sucked, the heat rises and we move up to shareholder discussion because there's too many shareholders in the room. And we start leading the sentences with, I'm the majority shareholder, this is what we should do. That's not a conversation that should be happening in the boardroom. So we'll remind you of this separation all the way through the program, but module 1 starts specifically with trying to help at that understanding of this is a selfish relationship generally. This is a selfless relationship. And because there's a contract involved, this is a two-way relationship. Sometimes it's going to be, depending on which way the interests are flowing, sometimes it's going to be more of a selfish mindset, and other times it's going to be a selfless mindset. So they're complex. And if you're wearing all three hats, it's really important to understand which one am I supposed to be wearing now, and what does my engagement with the company look like when I'm wearing that hat.
Are there any questions while we're going along? Anybody, any comments, questions?
I think we're okay. Just continue.
Okay, cool.
Let's
So the program is framed around the Sirdar governance compass. So module 1, introduction to the foundations of governance. What are your basic duties, care, skill, and diligence, all of those kind of things. Then in module 3, we start in earnest by going through all of the segments of our Sirdar governance compass, starting with due north, with your simulated company. You've been put into your groups. You've decided what your product's going to be for your industry. You've decided what your particular company name is going to be. So we put together a logo for you. We put together board papers for you. Now you're in your team, competing either against the computer or against the computer and one or more other teams in that cohort, running a company, making decisions, making financial decisions, determining whether you increase or reduce production, etc., in this manufacturing company in a simulated world, with a group of strangers who are all now the directors of this company. So you guys have got to work it out. You've got to work out what each other's skills are, what each other's strengths are, etc., and work together as a team to run this company and compete against the other companies in the simulator. So start with due north. What is our purpose? What is our promise? What is our strategy for this new little company we've got? And then you move round the wheel. And the reason why we've got these particular elements in the particular sequence is because over the last 16, 17 years, we have proved over and over again that you need to have some kind of sequence. And if you follow this particular sequence, it starts to build momentum quite quickly. So strategy, you have to have a good understanding of what the organizational culture needs to be and is currently if you're going to implement the strategy. Those two work very closely together and constantly need to be referred against each other. Once you've established those two, now you have something through policy that you can hold the rest of the organization accountable to. You can measure performance. You can determine if you have effective leadership or not. You can start to build the strategy and the organizational culture and values into your selection process, etc. Then you can look outwards. So we've understand what we've got inside now and where we're going. Now we can start to look outwards and see, okay, well, have we got the right suppliers, the right clients, are we involved with our community based on our values? Are we engaging with all the different stakeholders in the right way? based on what we said we want to do as a strategy and what we've said we're going to do in terms of values? Or is there a disconnect somewhere? Which is where are the potential risks in that stakeholder engagement? Making sure we've got a clear statement of intent from shareholders. What returns do you want? What growth do you want? Do you prefer having dividends now, or do you want us to reinvest to grow the capital value of the company? What are the returns that are expected from shareholders? Let's write that down, and then we can work with it as a board. Risk management compliance, similar to stakeholder engagement. It's a matrix. It's understanding where the big risks are, how frequently are they likely to happen, so that we can work out and grade them and make sure that we're working on alleviating the highest multiple of those. Financial results is thinking more about the structure of the organization, debt ratios, return on equity, all of those kind of things, not just profit and revenue. Is it a good idea to get more debt? Is it a better idea to have less debt? And you can practice those things and try those things in the simulator. You have that opportunity to take out debt or sell your bonds that you have or whatever it might be in the game. So you can try pulling these levers in your team. And then the last module, module 10, we go through an evaluation process, just like we would do for a real company and the outside world. So you get an understanding of what's involved, what the value is, what the output looks like, and then have that conversation with the other members of your team to say, how could we have as individuals improved? How could we have done a better job as a team? And if you were a company, then next year you start all over again, refresh your strategy, check your culture. Have we got the right metrics, performance measures, etc.? And we build momentum as we build in maturity in all of these different segments. So that's why we've got 11 modules, 2 to start with to build the foundations, and then 1 to close out at the end to give everyone an opportunity for a refresher of all the different modules, and also just to share your experiences, share your understanding, share your learnings, and wrap up the course. The other component is we use a profiling tool, and we're using an I Ching, which is the Chinese philosophy about life and energy and everything. We're using an I Ching-based tool called Contribution Compass. And it works on 4 energies, red, yellow, green, and blue. Everybody has more than 1% of each of all 4 of those, but based on the averages and where your particular dominant energy is, then you will end up with a specific profile. And we want to make sure that we understand what each individual's profile is, so that when we're building your team, we build a balanced team that has a variety of profiles around the circle. So this circle works on the governance compass. And if someone is high activating, they typically think strategically. If someone's high sustaining, then typically think about process and are going to see the risks and understand stakeholder engagement much better. So it's really, really important we understand your profile, because it'll have an impact on the strategy. And it'll also give you insights into working together better as a team, because you can play to each other's strengths. So that's one of the main tools that we use in the program. And then we also use it when we're working with boards in the real world as well. And the other part is the modules. So 4 hours per month for 11 months is the facilitator sessions. And you've got somewhere between 3 and 4 hours a week that you need to try and fit in terms of watching videos, preparing for your board meetings, etc. So the intention is we've spread it out over a long period of time so that you've got a focus each month in bite-sized chunks. You don't need to get distracted by trying to do too much at a time. You can get the work done, fit it in with your day-to-day life as far as possible. And we have tried multiple times to make this program shorter, but immediately people saying, wow, I can't get the work done quickly enough. So we end up going back to the 11-month format again. So you've got a month to sort out all of the materials for strategy and have your board meeting. You've got a whole month to sort out going through the materials on organizational culture, etc. So it should be enough time to do the work properly. And if you do the work properly and you keep up with the modules as you go, then it starts to build, because you can build on the work you've done in the previous month and add the new work And then as you're going through the board process and having your board meetings, you'll start to see that it becomes easier, becomes less it's less clunky, because we're now starting to get into the rhythm of it. And by the end, hopefully, you'll be able to say in the testimonial, yes, I fundamentally think about governance in a completely different way. People have noticed the change in questions I'm asking. They've changed in the way I'm preparing for board meetings. They've seen the difference in the way that I present board papers, etc., because I've done this thing over and over and over again. So outcomes: understand effective integrated high performance, what the methodology requires, reinforce any knowledge you had before, but help you unlearn and learn new things in terms of directors' duties, gain working knowledge essential tools. So we talk about board charters, we talk about the ways that board papers are presented, we talk about the shareholder intent, statement of intent document. You'll get exposure to all of those different documents that form the process, form the methodology, and really make the board process happen much more effectively. Gain practical expertise in the methodology. So our methodology includes that rhythm of having a pre-board meeting, preparing the papers in time, having the board meeting with everyone, having read everything. Then you have the minutes, the scribe writes up the notes for the meeting, and then you get the next month's board papers. It's that rhythm, but it's also the way things are presented during the meetings as well, the way the papers are constructed during the meetings as well. It's all part of the same rhythm, the same methodology. And you'll get an understanding, having served as a chair, do I ever want to do this again? Did I quite enjoy it? That was my takeaway from doing the course. Or I never want to be a chair. This is not something I want to do. I'm quite happy to be a non-exec director and contribute in other ways based on my specific skills or my insights when I'm looking and listening rather than running the meeting. Also understand your contribution compass profile and say, okay, well, I'm someone who is an initiator, I'm a catalyst, I'm going to change things up, but I need to understand that I must step back and give the other people in the team the opportunity to fill the gaps, because otherwise we just change things all the time. We come up with new ideas and we never implement anything. Or I'm a people person. I must be the one who's trying to make sure that everyone's working together and we're not leaving anyone behind, and we're inspiring everyone to continue on this journey. So understand your personal strengths and then go and test it in the real world and bring that insight back to the room, back to the cohort, and share those experiences. And we've been doing this quite a while. We started this in 2017. I think we're just about to start. This is the 67th cohort. And we've done well over 800 participants all over Africa. So this is well recognized in the continent and is starting to become recognized in the UK, New Zealand, Australia. We've been working with for quite some time. We're now getting into some of the Gulf states, UAE in particular. So the concept, the idea, the structures of what we're teaching is becoming more and more recognized. And we've got 2 cohorts coming up, one starting, was that next week, 27th? Yes, next week. And which is an afternoon cohort. And then the following one starting in November is a morning cohort. Oh, online, I better change that. So if you prefer to have your sessions in the afternoon, then the August one's the one to go for. And if you prefer having sessions in the morning, it's easier to fit in with your day, then the November one's the one to go for. Includes a copy of Traversing the Avalanche by our founder, Carl Bates. Natural Energy, the Contribution Compass. You get 64 continuous professional development points from a UK-based institution, so it's, I think, much more globally applicable or usable than just if it's South African-based entity. And you get access to the Sirdar base camp. And we've got it's not mentioned here, we have a Women's Month special still going, I think, don't we, Warwick?
We do. We absolutely do.
So for those of you on this call who are female, you get a special bonus if you sign up and pay. I'm not sure what the percentage is, but we can tell you the specifics if you're interested this month.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Any
Sorry,
questions?
should I write an email separately to you? What will be the discount for females?
30%. It's quite a big deal.
It's a big
Can you say
deal.
that again? How much is that?
We want lots of female directors. So 30% off the
30. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, we do think that and we have, and I say this without the benefit of being able to accurately poll it, but in our Sirdar Directors Network, over 50% of our directors are female in the network. And Norma, who is our non-exec direct appoint person, says that we've appointed more female directors in Africa than any other firm. And I have no reason to doubt her. She works very, very well. And in some cases, there are a few multinationals that actually won't appoint until they've chatted to her. So I'm very proud of her. We're very proud of her at Sirdar. She does an amazing job throughout the continent, appointing really good directors. And yeah, that's again, as we say, this sort of meaningful economic impact. We really, really believe that boards are catalysts for growth. And a lot of the stuff is just really it seems so simple when you're doing it, but sure, it's powerful when it actually sinks in and you start practicing it. You start developing a nice meeting cadence, and it's a wonderful catalyst for growth. Any questions? I saw somebody was busy typing and then they stopped. I was crestfallen. I was like, WhatsApp, sort of the story of my life. Like, oh well, that's overshare, but we're good.
Yeah, and please I'll just stick my. If you've got any other questions, please feel free to drop me a line, give me a call, whatever. We'll also send out a link to the recording and other information. You've got it on an email as well.
And thanks for that briefing. I think it is certainly useful to understand what this program is or about. Yeah, I think definitely will. Is there any way in the website, if you get into the website, I think what you presented, most of it is available, I presume, in case we need to go once more.
Yes.
And so it's.
I disappeared there. Not sure what happened there. I lost
you
my
just
connection.
You just disappeared, Tim. But that's cool.
Yeah.
My Wi-Fi went
the question? Yeah, the question was just really, will this all be available online? Yes, on our website. Please visit it. So please have a look at all those resources. We will be in touch. So if you've registered and you're online now, we're going to get hold of you and ask you about your kind of experience with the presentation, but also your interest in the course. We're starting one right away, and it's going to be fantastic. It always is. When I always chat to people who've done the course at the end. I love doing it. I sort of pop in and Tim and I sometimes have conversations and sort of questions and best practices and those kind of things. But we've never ever had anybody come back to us and say that was a waste of our time. We hate this. So yeah, I mean that might be a little bit of confirmation bias, but the other thing that I wanted to say, and I say this out loud often, is that it's an investment. It's an investment in a future career. It's also an investment in your business if you're a business owner, and it's an investment in knowing. And so the money isn't really that important in the context of your carear. And I think that if you think about that as just investing in yourself, somebody said to me the other day, do you have oh no, in fact it was if you spend 20 rand a day on coffee, you pay for the ADP in a year. So just make coffee at home, come on the ADP.
Just,
Yeah,
just
I mean, it
one
is
more,
like starting
one
a
more
new career. So
Yes,
more
one question.
So
Yeah.
all this training will be completely online at the end of the course or on the training. Is there any physical session with you guys in South Africa? You need to visit South Africa. Sorry, I'm calling from Kenya.
Yeah,
So,
there isn't. We've got an affiliate office in Kenya, and we have a legal entity registered in Kenya. So you're more than welcome if you want to see a warm-bodied Sirdarian. There are such animals in all
Kenya.
over the continent, but we do have representation in Kenya. And so what we want to try to do is part of the course isn't a compulsory go to South Africa, but we do like to have the alumni of the course all meet together in various cities. So Accra, Lagos, Dar es Salaam, Nairobi, Cape Town, Joburg. We've got some from Gaborone. So yeah, I think that it's a good point, but it's not compulsory that you travel, so it's all online. But we do once you're in the alumni group, we do have activations and meetings, and the community that we run is active in terms of group discussions, best practices, etc. We have another question. Yeah.
thank you. That's it. Thank you for that.
Thanks. Ranjiv, quickly just check that you can unmute.
Yeah, I just checked. He's
unmuted. Yeah, it's good. We've got a one. If you're battling to unmute, then maybe just pop it in the chat. I'll open up the chat.
Yeah, it looks like you unmuted momentarily and then muted again.
Okay. All good.
Any other questions?
I think just one more observation, Tim, and I'm going to sort of make it because we kind of blast through the presentation, and I always like to think that you can have a takeaway from having dialed in today. And if you do, and in your head when you're walking around, the takeaway is that you don't need any kind of qualification to be a good director. What you do need is that you need practical experience, and the best time to start is like tomorrow. And so Tim mentioned, get onto your body corporate, your homeowners association, the school board, the groups of security group,
something. Yeah.
And just start engaging, because it's a muscle that you will then sort of test. And so once you do, and once you're engaged in it, you'll start really understanding, hold on. And we're not often asked to, outside of maybe when we have kids, then you've got to look after like a baby, but we're not asked to be the representative of an incorporeal thing. So a company doesn't exist. And so we're asked to represent it, and we owe it a duty. And that concept is always so new and needs some test driving. And as Tim says, one of the things that happens is that people retreat into, I own this, therefore you have to do what I tell you. And that's the wrong thing to do. And it's, well, I'm paid a salary and therefore I'm going to do my job, which is also the wrong thing to do. So directorship slots into the middle of those two things. And you do owe a duty to the company. You've got to do what's in the best interest of the company all the time. And that means sometimes declaring your own interest. And it also means being able to recuse yourself from cases where you might actually be involved in a financial decision, in a personnel decision, etc. So that's where that ethical base comes back. And then my next point, and Tim, maybe we can use like 2 or 3 minutes. We do this contribution compass identifier very specifically, and we do it so that you can understand where your kind of your preference lies. It doesn't mean that if everybody comes out as having a high amount of activating energy, that we have to remove somebody from a board. It just means that your thinking is going, hold on, guys, has somebody remembered to turn the meeting recording on, right? It's a consciousness. So we're not saying if everybody's got high activating energy and nobody's got any kind of refining energy, that it means that the board must be reconstituted. What we're saying is that it's a mindfulness exercise. It's to understand, okay, I defer. Or sometimes you find a board, I mean, you can have a board full of accountants, right? So let's say it's a small audit firm, or you can have a board full of marketers in a marketing firm. And that's just how it is, because that's your profession. But the consciousness is to say, hold on, we all love big ideas, but nobody loves saying who did the thing. So let's create a mechanism to say, okay, hold on, who did the thing? And similarly, with the accountants, everybody has got great ideas. Nobody actually goes out and phones and says, hey, would you like to buy my idea? So that's the reason for that identifier. But it's not and I often, and this morning I spoke to a psychometrist. It isn't a psychometric evaluation. And it isn't because we don't want to label you, because I think the whole purpose of the course is to get your head around the fact that there's so many different constituent contributions that you can make that you're not sort of almost boxed into one of them.
Yeah, we want to make sure we understand what your preference is in terms of thinking and acting. So yeah. I'm high activating energy. I love change. I love new things. I'll chase the shiny thing, the new technology. I'll be interested in a new car that's just come out. That's what I'm going to be interested in. But I need someone else in the team, so Aziza in this case, who is sustaining the organization in terms of making sure things happen, make sure the process happens, making sure that when we've made a promise that we actually deliver it, all of those good things. And East and West is someone who's really, really good at analyzing data is not someone who's really, really good at building relationships, and vice versa. So we need to have both of them both represented in the room as far as possible. Otherwise, from a board perspective, we're going to miss something. We're going to miss opportunities. We're not going to see the risks. And in the critical moment, we're not thinking with our conscious brain. We're thinking with our subconscious brain, and we're just acting. And if we're not acting and going in all directions, we're just going in one direction, we're going to leave something behind, and it's going to be messy.
Cool. We have
Puppy,
one question.
You had your hand up? Puppy? You still got a question?
I'm going to give him a call anyway, so we can chat about the public sector.
Yes, definitely some work to do there. Definitely work to do there.
And he will probably know my friends, the McCormicks, at Exemplar Real Estate Investment Trust, and they also do some magnificent work in communities. They build community malls. And so they go out and provide these lovely opportunities to bring big box retail into informal settlements, which is really, really cool. So cool. Good. Thank you very much, everybody. We will hopefully all see you on ADP, but we certainly will be in touch, and this recording will be made available.
So thanks, Tim, for spending your time with us. I hope
Appreciate
it was useful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers, everyone. Have a good day further. Hey, Mr. Peary, you snuck in there.
Yes, I did. I watched the recording. I had a conflicting meeting.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Chat soon.
Cheers. Bye.